All right. Well, thanks for being here on this for this Monday's Mile High Market Brief. We got a ton of things that we want to talk about, and we're going to start with this Zillow versus Compass and MLS fight. There was an article in Inman, I think on Friday. Um, they interviewed Errol Samuelson, who is the what is he like chief industry officer, I think, for Zillow, and he's talking about the fight between Compass and Zillow. Zillow is suing over private listing practices, and what he's accusing Compass of being involved in is working with MLSs to change their rules in order to benefit Compass. And as most of us, I think, on this call know, earlier this year, Compass closed a deal to purchase Anywhere, and now under brands including Compass, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Corcoran, Sotheby's, now that conglomerate controls more agents than anyone else. Our take on this is that this move is really a control of inventory. Like who is going to get access to MLS, excuse me, who's going to get access to listing data first? Is it going to be public or is it going to be private? And Zillow's take, and of course, remember they've got a player in the game. Zillow's take is that transparency is at risk. Um, they say that the MLS system works because listings are open and buyers can see everything, and they believe that Compass is trying to change that. Charles, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that we go through this, and at the end of the day, what we understand is this. We are a fiduciary to our sellers and to our buyers. And yet, what we are going through right now is what we call the portal wars. And as we're looking at these portal wars, we understand that we are part of the largest real estate brokerage under one logo in the world. And what we have is some other big national players right now that are going through and they're saying, you know what, we actually don't like the way that things are being ran right now, and we want to change them. And so you look at this, and we have Zillow, which is pulling all of the MLS data in. And we understand that most of our buyers and our sellers are going to Zillow for their real estate information. And Compass is going through and they're saying, you know what? Compass wants to be able to play a little bit differently in the sandbox right now than how things are truly going. And so, what we are looking at right now is this clash of two big titans in the industry with Compass and Zillow going back and forth, suing one another to see who can come out on top. And it's going to get more and more interesting because as we're going through and we're looking at this, we don't know who's necessarily right, who's necessarily wrong at this point. And yet, as long as we're keeping our buyers and our sellers at the top of this foremost conversation as these things are happening and educating them, right? Then we know that we're doing the right thing. And yet, I think that's part of the conversations that we're having right now, Russ, is that we're actually seeing that maybe one of these companies isn't really doing their consumer, either the buyer or the seller, a service. So is that kind of what we're hearing in the industry right now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's an interesting thing because if you've been around Keller long enough, you know that there were days when we pointed the finger to the back of the room at family reunion at the Zillow booth and kind of talked about those guys because we were suspicious of their activity. Well, today Zillow's pointing their finger at Compass and basically saying they're looking at controlling the inventory, and we've been right all along about creating a big space. It's funny, we pick articles to talk about typically on Fridays before we meet, and something just came out a second ago about Redfin, and some changes with their agreements with Compass. Like there's a lot of things going on, and it's hard to keep up with the story. Charles, do we have a slide today about the broker listing exchange that Keller's starting?
Yes, we don't have a slide around Cotality, and yet it does absolutely fall into this conversation.
Yeah. So here's something that Keller's going to announce in a few days, maybe today, and it's actually already been announced. If you follow Inman or you follow Housing Wire, and this is a massive change. So, Cotality is owned by Stone Point Capital, and Stone Point Capital is the private equity firm that that has a major stake in Keller Williams. Stone Point Capital, through Cotality, there we go. Uh, uh, Through Cotality is launching broker listing exchange with Keller Williams and with Home Services, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And this is a new thing sort of under the sun, although again, if you've been around Keller Williams for a long time, Gary Keller was talking about this maybe 10 years ago, and I can't remember the name. Oh, Project Upstream. Anybody remember Project Upstream? Upstream that Gary was talking about? Basically, it's this. Cotality, formerly known as CoreLogic, owns 85% of the MLSs out there. Any MLS that's called Matrix is owned by Cotality. Starting soon, we will be able to go into KW Command and enter our listings there. Instead of entering our listings at our Matrix MLS, we will enter it through KW Command, and it will get sucked into the MLS if you choose to do that. And we will actually be the starting point instead of using the MLS as the starting point, and we will have the ability to choose what our gateway to the world looks like. We will be able to go to Zillow Preview. We'll be able to go to Zillow proper. We'll be able to go to our MLS. It will be a thing that starts in Command and goes out instead of a thing that starts in the MLS and comes back. Yes, because Katie, because Matrix is owned by Cotality, or is a Cotality product, it will be, your listings will enter just like you enter them now. I can't think of the name of the window, but we're actually going to take that window from the MLS and stick it right into Command for us. So this is a new thing, and details are coming, but it's a significant change because what we've decided our play will be going forward is we're going to take a little more control over our listings and take it away from the MLS. Charles, what are you highlighting there?
Yeah, just kind of going through and it's just going to be it's everything native that would be inside of the matrix currently is going to be inside your command system. And guys, like this is awesome, right? I think that we used to take a lot of pride saying that we put it in the MLS and then through the KWLS, we would syndicate out to hundreds of platforms. And now with these platform wars and what we're seeing right now is maybe you don't necessarily want it on platform XYZ because you don't think it necessarily makes sense for your client. And now you're going to have so much more power to syndicate out. And guys, this is huge news, right? We might go through something where your client says, "You know what? I don't want it on Zillow. I don't want it on realtor.com," right? Like they're going to go through here. And remember, like we've had conversations where they were like, you know what? I don't want it there or I don't want it seen here. And now you have the power. Before it was in the MLS's hands. Now, the one thing that we do have to keep in mind is this. You still have to be a user of that MLS. The MLSs aren't going away, at least yet, right? With an asterisk.
I think there'll be changes in the MLSs. And by the way, this is I believe if you're on a Flex MLS, I see Marla on my screen. If you're on a Flex MLS like we are in Vail, that will require going to Flex and going to VBR and entering it there. It's a little bit different, but 85% of the MLSs are owned by Cotality. Dan Noel put a comment in here. He said, or a question. He says, is the idea here that this allows us the simplicity of a one-stop shop, but also leveraging internal tools to help improve the quality of our listings? 100%. I also think what this is about is brokerages like our independently owned and operated Keller Williams offices having the ability to do with their data what they want to do with it instead of being constricted by what the MLS allows. So you might imagine a world where, a brokerage, just to come up with something simple, a brokerage has an app, and so they work through their own data to fund that app instead of having to suck it in from the MLS first and do it that way. Like, technology is changing so quickly, and um, that we're going to have more choices of what we do with our data going forward. So anyway, more coming on this. And I should also note, since we're talking about a Stone Point Capital um, play, Cotality. Remember, Stone Point Capital also has a significant ownership in Lone Wolf, and you're going to start seeing Lone Wolf making a lot of changes to KW Command, because Lone Wolf is now um, the operator behind Command. They are building and upgrading Command as we speak. Charles, you want to say anything to that while I pull the next thing up?
Um, yeah, I mean, Russ and I were on a call on Friday that obviously we're not allowed to divulge too much information. And yet, guys, think about all the cool stuff that Lone Wolf has coming to a command platform near you.
Yeah, there you go. That's a safe way to say it. All right, can we still see my screen?
It's popping up. Yep,
I can't see it. Oh, got
there
it.
it
All
is.
right. So, Charles, you picked this article. Why is the 2008 housing crash, why it can't happen again? What's different today?
Yeah, guys, here's the conversation that I think a lot of us find ourselves in, especially with all the doom and gloom that these other news outlets are pushing. And so, first and foremost, before we jump into this, everyone has homework. If you haven't already done so, you need to go watch The Big Short, right? Like, go find The Big Short and watch it. And the reason behind that is it's going to show you all the things that happened. And yet, this is the basic premise. You would go into a bank and you would say, I want to go buy a house. And they'd say, awesome. How much money do you need? And you would give them a dollar amount, and then they'd hand you over a mirror. And as long as you could fog the mirror, they would give you money. And then, just like a Kohl's card, they would say, do you want a second one? And you would say, well, if you're offering one, sure. And you would get a second mortgage and maybe a third. And this is where we saw these rise of the zombie foreclosures, right? To where it happened was you would be, well, not you, but the banker, because you weren't even looking at your properties, is the banker would drive by and they would see that there was a bunch of mail falling out of the mailbox. The lawns haven't been mowed in weeks. You got broken windows. And what was happening back then is they weren't even making sure that you were able to repay your mortgage. And now what we're seeing, right? We're seeing it sit on the market a little bit longer. We're seeing prices go down a little bit, and everyone's starting to talk, oh my goodness, is this the crash? And yet there's nothing similar to what happened in 2008, because 2008 we had a lending problem. Now the government stepped in. The government said, hey, listen, if you're going to loan someone money, you have to make sure that they can repay it. And when we're looking at this, we put up one of these graphs up at this top middle here for you, and you can see it, and it's showing you that how low these bankruptcies are, right? So we're going through and we're looking at this, and guys, we don't have as many bankruptcies as we had. The second one, check this out. I know the colors are hard to see, but if you look at that far left color, that's that dark red, which correlates with the bottom. And that's how much equity the consumer has in their homes right now. So think about in Colorado, all right? So we have some of the highest price point homes in the nation. And let's just say that we do get in a situation where we have to sell our house, right? Because death, divorce, unemployment, something happens. There's so much equity in these houses that are valued at an average price point of $600,000 in the Denver metro that they can pretty much go to anywhere in the Midwest and go buy a home cash with the equity if they were pushed out. Now, with that, Russ, like as you were having some of these conversations and you're thinking about now versus 2008, what are your thought process on like some of the conversations that we might be finding ourselves in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that we have to remember that while there's nothing new under the sun, there are situations that make there are things that make today's world very different than then. I remember calling my bank somewhere along 2003, 2004 and saying, "Hey, I'm buying a house. I just put the contract in. I need $400,000 Friday." And they were like, "Okay." And like literally the money showed up in my bank account. I'm not sure that I did the loan application until after closing. I mean, it was a loose world pre Great Recession, and then things got really tight, and things have gotten a little bit looser lately. But yeah, things are just different than they are. I love this little bit here in the middle about foreclosures and bankruptcies. Like you're seeing, you'll see an article since you're going to look for it now. You're going to see an article that says since 2001, foreclosures and bankruptcies are up 300%. And as in, like, there was one foreclosure and now there's three foreclosures, but it is nothing like back during those days. So remember, and Cooper said this today in a kind of a different way on the regional rally. Um, Headlines are meant to get clicks and views. They're not necessarily true truth. Talk to us, Charles, about mortgage purchase applications. I mean, we're seeing changes there.
Yeah. So, guys, this graph should excite everyone on this call, unless you're not reaching out to your database, right? If you're not reaching out to your database, this should actually make you sick to your stomach. And what we're looking at here is, yes, asterisk, there are some refinances in here because guess what? These north of 6% interest rates are still more favorable than some interest rates that your consumers already have. And yet, check this out. Week over week, we're up 4%, but year over year, this is what's exciting. 7% more consumers, buyers are reaching out to the lender to figure out what they qualify for.
Yeah.
We've talked about golden handcuffs for how long now, Russ?
A number of quarters. I
Yeah,
mean, eight, nine,
yeah.
12 quarters, something like
Yeah,
that.
when we're looking at this and we're saying like, hey, buyers are not going to move anymore because they have these low interest rates, but yet here we are. Every year we are seeing positive increase from buyers. Why? Because life event happens. And so, Russ, if I'm a real estate agent in Colorado right now, and I'm looking at this graph and I'm seeing that, okay, buyers are getting off the fence, what is one or two things that you suggest that I do as an agent to take more market share?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I say this almost every time a question like this comes up. You need to be in front of your database more and more because there are people in your database who have finally gotten used to hearing 6% ish. And, it sounded like a huge number the first time they heard it. It sounded like a deal breaker the first time they hear it. But what we know about people is over time, it becomes normal and then they decide to take action, you know? And, and we're still in a historically low area in terms of rates. So, I mean, some of us on this call, we remember rates significantly higher. I bought my first house in 1996, and my rate was 8.5. No
Yeah.
credit, no application filled out for that one either. But 8.5, and so and we didn't think anything of that. So and some people are on this call remember much higher than that. So um, be in touch with your database because you got to be ready when they raise their hand and say they're ready to go. Hey Charles, can we didn't we just hit something very similar to this on the regional rally?
Yeah, we absolutely did.
Let's zip to the next one. I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about some specific things happening in Colorado. When we look at that statewide market analysis, um, inventory has improved. Homes are taking longer to sell, but they're selling. Prices have flattened overall. And as we're going to see in a minute, luxury and mountain markets are behaving very different than entry level markets. Charles, what do you see on the statewide level?
Yeah, so I think when I look at the state overview here, The important thing that I would like to see, and actually we when we were looking at this, we went and grabbed the definition, was this affordability index. And the higher the number, the more affordable
Mhm.
the housing is in Colorado. And so as we're going through and we're seeing, okay, days on market is going up, we're seeing that prices are going down. Guys, this is a good thing. And I think that we need to make sure that we're framing these conversations in an appropriate way. And that conversation is this: Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when you sell your home, where do you intend on moving? And then we can look at the data and say, well, like, hey, if we're staying in Colorado and we're going to sell the house and we're going to be on the buy side, this is actually a win for you as well. Because if the home prices are going down a little bit across the board, then when you buy, you're actually going to be in a good position as well. And so I really like to see this. We have an affordability issue here in Colorado. And with our high price points and interest rates being what they are, we're seeing more hesitant buyers. And what we understand is most sellers become buyers. And so they're thinking long term. So when we're seeing prices come down a little bit, guys, this is a huge, huge win. And I'm all for it.
Yeah. On the rally a minute ago, Cooper showed this chart, and some of you all were there. He showed this chart that basically said that I think it was the last 10 years, income has stayed the same, housing cost has doubled. And that is really fascinating information and important to take to your clients and help them understand, why things are as they are. And it kind of could be taken as sort of ugh, like this isn't good. But having the data and understanding the data um, is meaningful because our job is to report things as they are. And there's always people looking to buy or sell a home. We wanted to talk a little bit today about some of the mountain communities. Can you still see my screen?
Yep.
Um, I want to talk about we're gonna do a little dive into Summit County, Eagle County, Pitkin County, and Grand County. I know some of the people on this call deal in these places. When you look at Summit County, um, it's one of the healthiest mountain markets in Colorado. It's not a distressed market. It's what you might call a constrained luxury market, but the demand is pretty resilient. Prices are up. Um, Average sales prices are up. Inventory has declined. Month supply uh, for April has declined. We see a really active high-end buyer in Summit County and some inventory shortages that are helping prices um, go up. Eagle County is softer than Summit County right now. Luxury prices have clearly pulled back there. Median down 4.5, average down 36.8. Days on market improving. Here, I think that Eagle is transitioning to a pretty extreme seller's market, and there's more negotiating at the luxury level. Charles, anything you're seeing in Summit at Eagle that you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at this, and if we were to even just go back and look at Summit, and we're looking at just new listings are going down, right? So we're having less inventory hit the board, which is actually driving up the average price point. And the days on market is also going up. But see, that's what's interesting about this market that we're in right now. And we talk about the affordability issue, and I know that we're talking more of a luxury demographic, a buyer right now. And yet, looking at this, and we're saying, okay, well, we're not seeing a whole lot of price decreases. We're pretty much getting more money than what we've gotten year over year versus 2025. And there's less inventory hitting the board. And this is all the perfect storm. And so, this is what just shows us that real estate is super hyper local. And when we're sitting down with our sellers and we're having these conversations with them, this is the information that we absolutely need to bring to the table as we're deciding, and they're telling us why they've called us so that we can have a conversation to make sure that they're getting to their next destination.
Yeah. Um, I want to spend a couple minutes also talking about Pitkin County and Grand County. Um, Pitkin County, which of course is where Aspen is in an absolute reset. It's in an absolute reset. In fact, by the way, if you aren't aware, Keller is doing a luxury event on June 17th in Aspen. So if you want to see some inventory and have a little luxury training, probably the sharpest reset in the state in Pitkin County. Median prices down, average prices down, sales down, days on market way up. So big slowdown happening there. The ultra luxury market, is very sensitive to stock market volatility and global uncertainty and luxury inventory being saturated. So there's all sorts of things I think that are playing in this ultra luxury market. Pricing momentum is broken in Pitkin County, and things are becoming in this area very shifted towards buyers. Grand County is super stable. Grand County is super stable. Median price down modestly, but average price up. Sales are pretty flat. Inventory's down. Month supply of inventory has improved. It's a healthy market. Really, compared to the other ones, Grand is steady. It's less speculative, and certainly it's an affordability driven market. So just thinking about these four mountain communities, Summit exceptionally strong at the luxury level. Eagle, pricing is normalizing. Pitkin, slow, and Grand, stable. Charles, thoughts?
Yeah, I think what would be interesting to look at, even with Pitkin, is when we go and we dive into their median versus average on their townhome condo. I'd
Yeah.
be very interested if we were to look at this and see, is this, is the one bedrooms more of this median home price of $3 million versus that average that's being pulled up because it has what, two bedrooms, three-bedroom condos and townhomes. But
Yeah.
again, it just shows you we're looking at four different mountain counties as we're going through here, and we're seeing significant changes in the market. And so, be that real estate economist of choice, everyone. We're going through, let's figure out our numbers, let's have the conversations, and let's not be afraid to go out there and to make sure that we are that real estate economist of choice for our consumers.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you next Monday. Have a great one.